Is this it? Oh, it's the dev diary. This is what I want. Okay. Let's see here. Let us read. Hi, prospectors. Days here, creative director of Cycle Frontier. Thank you all a bunch for being an active part of this awesome community, for the incredibly valuable feedback you provided us thus far. We read and discussed it as a dev team every day, and frankly, wouldn't be here without it. No surprise, but there's probably the most debated topic about our last two betas has been solo versus squads. The fact that they coexist in the same instance. This blog post is meant to shed some light on our internal thinking and things that we're looking into to alleviate some of the frustration that some of you guys feel in the moment. First things first, while we are not hell-bent on the mix, more info on what we're planning on in terms of matchmaking below, we think that there's a lot of special value in mixing solo versus squads, for sure. The cycle is so much about the tense uncertainty, drama, and not knowing what awaits around every corner, unpredictability, and who has a friend and who doesn't can add heaps to this, for sure, if done right. Even teaming up with strangers, if you dare trust them. Yep. We also think to get the balance right, we're not there yet. The knowledge that you as a solo could take out a whole squad and get out with their loot can be incredibly rewarding. True. We want Fortuna 3 to be full of surprise, uncertainty, tension, and drama. Many of the favorite moments in the beta so far involve taking down unsuspecting squads as a sneaky solo player, or even getting friendly with a 3-man over VoIP who provide protection while moving to evac. These are moments and stories that you don't have in many other games, and that we'd hate to lose, as they can make the game and its player stories rather special. I'm 100% on everything they've written so far. Love to see it. We also like the current choice between danger as a solo, but keep the loot yourself, or safety in numbers, but sharing the loot with a group. I think this is less notable, right? I feel like most of the time you are going to come out with just more as a group on average, regardless, but assuming that you are successful, right? It really depends on like the quality of the squad mates, but yeah. In my experience, obviously, yeah, I mean, it's not really comparable. That said, we're not there yet and realize the current setup is causing frustration. Squad communication. First of all, we feel squads are currently have way too much of an easy time communicating and coordinating in the heat of combat without making much of an effort. To combat this, we first of all want to replace the HUD player pings with a diegetic over there VO line and pointing animation. We think instant HUD ping comes with a couple of issues. They're listening. The devs are listening to us. Shh. Be careful what you say. It allows squads to communicate instantly and with perfect accuracy the location of a sneaky solo player who might be planting an ambush. We feel that this communication is something that should require some effort, using the compass and describing actual geometry to your squad mates. It feels gamey and immersion breaking, for sure. We're not a simulation game, but we do take immersing yourself in the game world seriously and making sure most of the feature appears as believable in-world actions, and HUD markers like these goes against that vision. I mean, they're spot on here. This is what we've talked about. It's way too easy to be a very cohesive kill squad with zero communication skills. You can literally play this game with no discord between you and your squad mates and be incredibly effective. The squad that we ran the other day, we talked about specifically, we could have not been in Discord together and still been just as successful. There is no comms that are necessary when you have pinging and outlines. There's no comms necessary. And I think that that is one of the things that currently make squads so damn strong and will inhibit their ability in the future to remove these two things. So we'll see if they get to the outlines as well. We feel a more diegetic over their command will still allow squads to communicate where they've dropped meds, or there might be loot that their mates need without causing an imbalance in the heat of combat. We will also reevaluate our current squad outlines. Yes! Yeah, I mean, just the last thing on pings is like, it's a skill that is required to effectively explain where an enemy is moving or was seen in the heat of combat, right? That's something that a lot of people struggle with, and it's something that you have to develop and work on. And I think you should be rewarded for great communication in a squad, right? You should be more successful on average, right? And I think that will greatly increase the skill ceiling and the skill gap between good squads and great squads, right? So I'm excited to see that removed. Um, as much as I like pinging in a lot of games, it just doesn't feel right for an instance-based survival shooter. BR, sure. This type of game, no. We're going to reevaluate our current squad outlines. We'd like to be in a place where you can just know, where you can know who is your friend, so you're not totally confused with when someone who just happens to look like a twin of your squad mate appears, but without providing perfect wall hack info in the midst of combat. Perhaps showing the outline only as you aim at a squad mate, not through geo or some of this direction. We would love to hear your thoughts on this topic. Certainly interesting. I think seeing them through geo is bad. Like, seeing them on the opposite side of a building is bad, and also alleviates some of this communication. It can alleviate communication deficiencies, right? Because if you see them on the other side of a building, right, and you see exactly where they are and you see which way they're facing, when they say on my left, player on my left, that's all they have to say. Or if they just start aiming, you can see the direction they're aiming. So then you know where the enemy is without them having to provide any kind of information. I think that's bad. I think that's like almost the same as pinging. Not quite, but almost, right? You can read that information way too easily. That should have to be conveyed verbally, in my opinion. I like the idea. Like, I prefer no outlines and having to risk friendly firing people. I much prefer that. First and foremost, that's what I would prefer. That's something that we've gotten used to in Tarkov. And I think as cosmetics get introduced into this game, I think it's the responsibility, but specifically because you can get Aurum, which is the premium currency, through in-game methods to be able to buy something with your squad that matches. Because it's possible to get those items without putting any money in the game, I think it should be the responsibility of a squad, if they want to run successfully and not risk friendly fire, to all match something. At least, right? All match like headpieces, for example, would be my primary thought process. Either headpieces and backpacks. That's almost always what I use to identify players in Tarkov. Like, if I'm playing with a squad, I would identify every person's head and backpack. And if I knew what that was, then I felt really confident in whether or not I could fire without hesitating, right? No hesitation firing. You need to be able to give your squad that opportunity. And if they don't have it right away, that's fine, right? That's something to work towards. That's something exciting. That's something like, hey, this is our squad. We roll like this. And I think, like, it would be neat to see that in game. I think that adds value, that adds culture, that adds meaningfulness to the micros, or you know, free ways to ascertain the cosmetics. I like it. I think that that's a great, like, goal for people to work towards, right? Yeah, I think there are a lot of other cosmetic micro options as well. Whether it's armbands would be a fine addition, right? And maybe even they could be cheaper, right? Colored armbands are fine, but having to visually look at a teammate, have them be in line of sight and know, okay, that's my dude or that's not my dude, right? I love the idea that FF is possible. I love having to have good communication or hesitation. It being one or the other for a squad is what specifically makes solo play viable. Because as a solo, you don't hesitate at all. You're shooting everybody if you want, right? If that's going to be your method of gameplay. Or when you're in a situation where you have to defend yourself, there's no hesitation. And that's what makes 1v3s 100% fair. Like, you can absolutely make it happen. And again, they talked about the fact that it's not exactly where they want to be. I assume that this also refers to, like, time to kill, and trying to fine tune, you know, guns versus armor kind of thing, right? We'll see. Keep going. I think the idea of showing the outline as you aim, I think the outline is not great. I would almost, like, if they were going to go this method, I would prefer, like, maybe your crosshair changes color to, like, red. So you have to, like, take the time to gloss over somebody, see the change, then snap back to, you know, potential non-teammate. It's better. I think it's better than the outline system, for it to, like, go green to red or something. I don't know. Just a thought. ideally, I would want nothing. Ideally, I want nothing and put the responsibility on a squad to be cognizant of the way that each other look, right? Because I think, again, that's a skill that has been important and enriching in DayZ, Escape from Tarkov, insert XYZ game, right? So, matchmaking. We see many solo players asking for a separate matchmaking queue for solo players and or a way to opt in or out of matches with squads. While we see why, we also see the benefit of this approach. We also see some big downsides. A loss in unpredictability, tension, drama while opening up our maps to be gamed in odd ways, with player density in each map looking totally different depending on the queue. This is why we are looking into kind of a middle ground version that involves an update to our current matchmaking. Currently, we match players on the median value of loot that they get out from Fortuna 3 with. Evac a lot of high value loot, and it increases. Get foamed a lot or evac with only a small amount of loot, and it will stay low or go down. Squad currently gets a rating of their highest rated player. So I personally hate the system. I think this is very easily gamed. I think it creates a lack of diversity in the interactions that you're going to get. As like the more that you play, the sweatier things get. One of the most beautiful things about this genre is random player interaction, not knowing what you're going to get, and it always being a mixed bag. There's going to be days where like you run into players that you're just absolutely going to stomp, and that feels good, and then there's times where you get absolutely stomped, and you need both to have the game be interesting and fun. And if you're limiting that scope of what you can experience, I think that is ultimately a very bad thing. And it makes the game infinitely less interesting and really reduces someone's overall like lifespan playtime 100%. That randomness, that not knowing is the drive of maybe today's going to be a good day, right? I think that's definitely the case, right? Those amazing come up moments, you need to have them on a player that doesn't have, or that has really good loot, but maybe doesn't have the same skill level. You need to have those moments, and you're not going to find each other with a system like this. So we'll see what they are proposing here. We want to change this so that squads are rated higher than individual players, with the rating increasing per squad mate. What this means is we keep a good dose of unpredictability and drama, but we tune away, especially in the worst case, with which is a low-scoring solo player versus the best squads. Average squads will be somewhat more likely to face squads overall. So I think this is even a move in the wrong direction. I think this is even worse. Yeah, I definitely think this is even worse. Again, this is reducing the scope of your experience, right? Which is very frustrating. In a way, it goes in the direction of separating queues, but without actually doing so. Rather, we get a tunable variable that dictates to what extent they are separate, that we can keep tuning based on feedback from you, our community. Yeah, again, you effectively, it is separating queues, right? I understand that it's like a scalable slider, but at the end of the day, you're reducing the variability of your interactions. And I think anything that does that in this kind of game is bad. You're not going to get a better mixed bag than pure random. You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days. You're going to have like really shitty moments that just like, wow, ran into that 3-man. I had no chance. I lost all my shit. Really unlucky, right? But at the end of the day, this entire genre is based on gambling. And the minute that you take that random factor and you try to control it, right? Now it feels like I'm playing in a casino where it's not random, right? That's obviously a bad feeling. You're choosing how much you want to put on the line in every single raid, right? You're choosing, okay, do I want to bring in a little bit and bet on myself to try and make magic happen, or I'm going to bring in a lot and try and increase the odds of being successful, right? This entire genre, this game mode is based on gambling. And when you're setting the odds in advance, you're killing the overall soul of what's happening, right? You're just stomping on it. And that's unfortunate. I really dislike the direction on this front. I think that ultimately it leads to a lot more narrow of a game experience for everybody. And you're going to create gameable systems which feel bad. I would rather see combat tuned in a way that allow the solo player to have, like, with a high skill ceiling to where they can make big boy plays with the appropriate skill level, right? And experience and game knowledge and reflexes and all the things, or like proper utility use. I want to see things added to the game to give the solo player tools to be able to win these encounters with the right plays. Anything that increases skill ceiling or skill gap in that fashion is the answer. De-randomizing these lobbies is definitely not the answer. Feel very strongly about that, and it's probably the one biggest gripe that I have as a player of the game, as a fan of the game, as a content creator for the game. We'll see what they end up doing. With CB2, we implemented a brand new audio occlusion system. While this is great, as often happens in game dev, you introduce something new, we perhaps overdid it. This leads to sounds like footsteps or gunfire not being audible, even though they're close to you due to being occluded by geometry. This in turn dilutes what is meant to be one of the major drawbacks in playing the squad. You usually make a lot more noise, so that solo players get an idea of where squads are moving. You can choose what to do with that information. We're looking to improve this a bit. Yeah, I've noticed that with the new occlusion, sometimes it can be heavy-handed, for sure. Sometimes I get like a weird footstep that like bounces off of like some geometry and it makes it sound way louder than it should be or way quieter than it should be. I've definitely noticed this. And sometimes it feels like some fake audio feedback or fake audio cue that shouldn't be acted on, which you obviously don't want. So, cool. It's nice to see that they definitely recognize that. But that being said, overall, I think the audio in the game is phenomenal. Like, where it's at already is really good and better than other games in this genre. Maybe not better than Hunt. I feel like Hunt's audio is like really top tier. That CryEngine audio is nasty in the best way. But yeah, I mean, it's head and shoulders above Tark at this point. That's for sure. We want solo players to have the tools and ability to, if they invest in this direction and play smart and skillfully, to be able to avoid squads, take them out and outsmart them. We think this requires another look at time to kill, with first a general slight decrease, okay, depending on gear, that went out with the latest CB22 patch. Okay, so we've already been playing on this, and I did notice a slight decrease. For future release, we want to add more tools, consumables, and gear specifically aimed at solo players, giving them more ways to avoid, counter, and outsmart squads. Perfect. I mean, I literally just took the words out of my mouth, right? I literally just asked for this. I think that they are undervaluing the changes that this specifically can make towards giving solos a chance without de-randomizing matchmaking. I think that there's a way to do this in a way that doesn't require the other change. 100%. So we'll see. As someone who has spent the last 5 years taking out 5-man squads in Tark since January 2017, right? As someone who literally had, like, that's their favorite moments in game, it happens plentifully. And I'm not a god gamer by any stretch of the imagination. I just have the game experience, the timing game, the map knowledge, all these things that are required, the ideas of how to use utility properly. Not that there's a lot of it in Tarkov. There's already more, it feels like, in Cycle. But that being said, to go against threes, like, it can very obviously be done right in a pure randomized matchmaking setting. 100%. So, I'm a firm believer in that. Specific solo perks. Now, this is scary. I don't know how I feel about this. Rather than penalizing squad play, we're also talking about perks for playing solo. One of the more popular ideas so far in the team has been to increase the number of evac spots if you play solo. Sure. That's a good answer. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. I'm not mad about that. Solo get 1 or 2 more evacs. Yeah, who cares? It's a constantly refreshing idea. And if you really want to like go in and do something because you're that desperate to make gains, right? Realize the gains or get a certain item out, and you're not looking for a ton of action, that's fine. If that map is refreshing the total player count constantly, who cares? If someone really feels like they're not skilled enough to like stay in game a long amount of time, right? Or they just don't have like the necessary tools, they don't feel comfortable with the map knowledge, they're just going in, they're grabbing what they need, they want to get out. I'm not mad about that. As someone who really enjoys player interaction, this doesn't bother me because I know that there's going to be another player coming in having to do the same thing, having to traverse. As long as those evacs are still like a decent ways away from their original spawn location, as long as they're not getting evacs that are right next to them, then sure, why not? I think this is really impacts like new players, or just like, you know, what we would consider like the lowest skill players in the game. They're the ones that are going to want to do this. And I, as someone who has a lot of experience, I think that doesn't bother me, and it only helps them, and it improves their new player experience, which I recognize is very important, despite having a lot of time in this game already. It's important that the new player experience isn't just like absolutely horrifyingly brutal. I remember what it was like in Tark, even way back when. If the barrier of entry is not as high for this game, that's a good thing, not a bad thing. So this is what we are currently thinking, and the things we'd like to try out moving forward. Some of these things we're trying out already in CB23. Some of them will come later. Our goal is an immersive world full of surprises, drama, and stories. This is crucial, and I think that this is like the driving factor for them. They've mentioned this a bunch of times, and I think it's super crucial. Our goal is an immersive world full of surprises, drama, and stories. If this is the driving force, then I think they're going to continue in the right direction. I do think that the randomized lobbies removes this, or the non-randomized lobbies removes this. One that is easy to get into and learn without feeling like there is no way you can avoid getting stomped. And again, I think this is a great way to address it, right? More evac slots for solo. The way to get there is by collaborating with our player base, for sure. So there you go. This is Dev Diary Part 10, solos and squads. And, you know, some things I agree with, some things I don't. And hopefully it continues to just move in the right direction. I do think that right now it's not where it needs to be. It's good that they recognize that. And I love their transparency on this front, trying to get it sorted so that the most amount of people are enjoying the game. That's all that matters.